Good morning. Today we are working on CO34. I can use a tax to find a total cost. Yesterday's objective with CO33 was doing a discount. We were subtracting out. Now we are finding tax. Tax is what we add on to that subtotal. So something many people deal with nearly every day is tax. You go to the store, you're buying stuff, you get taxed on a lot of it. Why does something on the dollar menu at McDonald's cost more than $1? Because of tax. Tax is a percentage similar to a discount, but it increases the price rather than decreases it. Here are some situations you may have encountered. You buy a picture frame for $5. There is a 10% tax. What is the final price of the picture frame? You buy an iPod for $400. There's a 40% tax. What is the final price of the iPod? Or you buy a plot of land for $550 and there's a 20% tax. What is the final cost of the land? We get taxed all the time, friends. We need to know how to figure out taxes. Okay, it does increase how much you owe, so you need to make sure you have enough money. So just like in our last objective, there were two different ways to figure it out. It's the same thing with the increase. When we decrease, we were multiplying, subtracting, or subtracting then multiplying. Now we're increasing. How do you think we're going to change it up, James? Instead of those subtracting parts, we're going to be adding. So let's see how that works out. For our picture frame, it is 10% tax. So we want to know what 10% of $5 is. So remember that is 0.12 of means multiply. What is 0.1 times 5? That 10%. What is that? Bridget? 0.5. Now instead of subtracting it from our original, we are adding it. And because it is money, we are going to go out to that 100th place where that cent is. Okay? We go out to the rounding to that cent place. So it's $5.50. So make sure when you're dealing with money, you go to the 100th place. It's the same math we were doing yesterday, except instead of subtracting, we added. So let's look at what that formula would be. We have our original price, and then we have those parentheses, that 100%, and our percent of tax. Remember, I said instead of subtracting, we are adding. Otherwise, it's the exact same formula that we were doing before. We just have to remember we're adding this time. So let's fill in. We have our original is $5. Inside we have 100% plus 10%. So what's our first step that we do, Adeline? Yeah, we're going to do inside the parentheses. We're adding it. So that becomes 110% times that 5. How do I write 110% as a decimal? Oh gosh, I completely forgot.
No, you're okay.
Can you give me 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
Thank you. 10 might be good.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we do 110% as a decimal, Sarah? Yeah, 1.10. So what is 5 times 1.10? Aiden? 5.5. And remember, when we're dealing with money, we're going to make that a 0.50. So it's 50 cents. $5.50. So let's look at our next one, the iPod. The iPod was 40% tax on a $400 iPod. So what is 40% of 400? Adeline. Remember that of means multiply. Yep. So what is that? What is 0.40 times 400? Kylie. 160. What do I do next? Liam? Yeah, I'm going to take that 400 plus that 160, and I get $560 with that tax on it. Now let's look over at using our formula. It's originally $400, 100% plus 40%. So that's first step, remember, is adding those percents together. So 400, what is 140%? Has a decimal. Kylie? 1.40. What is 400 times 1.40? Aiden. 560. We get that same answer, right? Whether we multiply and then add, or we add then multiply, we get the same answer. So let's look at the land. So Charlie, you can get up and go get it. We don't need to make her do all the walking. She's helping you out. Let's look at our land. We had $550 worth of land, and there's a 20% tax on it. So we want to know 20% of 550. So that's 0.20 times 550. What is 20% of 550? Bridget? Say it a little louder for me. 110. So that's our tax. So we have our original price of 550 plus our 110, and we get $660. Let's do our formula. We had 550 times 100% plus that 20%. So 550 times 120%. So it's 550 times 1.20. What is, sorry, that should be a 50. What is 550 times 1.20? Adeline. We get that same $660. How are we feeling about this one? Show me your thumbs. Yeah, it's very similar to yesterday's. So if you were feeling good with yesterday's, today's is going to be the same thing. Except instead of subtracting, we are adding. So let's look at the bottom. You purchase a calendar for $10, 10% tax not included, and you pay with a $20 bill. How much is your change? So you purchase the calendar for $10. You bring it up to the register, and they're going to give you a 10% tax. So and you pay with $20, what is your change? So our first thing to figure out is how much that 10% tax is. So how much are we going to pay all together? So we could do it either way. 10% of $10. So that would be 0.10 times 10, which would be 1. And then we add that. So we get 11. Or we could do that original way. We could say that 10 times 100% plus 10%. So 10 times 1.10, and that equals 11. What is my question though? It's not asking how much that calendar is going to cost with the tax. There's an extra step. It's saying how much is your change. What do I do, Bennett? I subtract 11 from 20. So I start with my 20, how much I'm paying with. I subtract out how much it costs, and I know that I get $9 in change. So we always have to make sure that we're answering the question being asked. Okay, this one didn't stop at how much is the calendar going to cost with the tax. We had to go that extra step. So look at the bottom one. You purchase 3 bags of fertilizer for $30 each. 20% tax is added. You pay with a $100 bill. How much is your change? What's our first step going to be with this one? What do you think, James?
It's not about that, but it's the tax is not included.
Right, so it costs $10 before the tax.
Okay.
Then we have to include the tax.
Okay.
Adeline. Why do we have to multiply 30 by 3, Adeline? Awesome job. We bought 3 bags. So we had to figure out how much money that would be all together. So we could do 3 times that $30. So we know it's $90. Then we have a 20% tax added. So we have 20% of 90. So that's 0.20 times 90, which is 9. We add that to our 90. Oh, you know what? I changed it. Instead of 20%, we're changing it to 10%. Because if we did 20%, it wouldn't have been 9. If we did 20%, we would not have had enough money. So I changed it. Instead of a 20% tax, it is a 10% tax. So this way, we actually have enough money to pay for it. So instead of 20%, change it to 10%. So we multiplied 10% of 90, and we got the 9. So it's $99. Is that my answer? We're spending $99 on the fertilizer. Lila? What? What do I have to do? That question that it's asking is how much is your change? I pay with $100. So I have to do 100 minus 99. My change is $1. Okay? So make sure you're answering the question. Our second page, just like yesterday, we have that table that we need to fill in, doing the same math, adding on our tax. Then we have our, here it says you can also use these methods outside the realm of taxes and percentages. Find the new amount. So instead of saying it's a tax, we're just increasing it by a certain percent. It's the same math. It doesn't have to be a tax. It's just increasing by a certain amount, by a certain percentage. Same math that we're doing. You have your original amount and you have the percentage to increase it. Do the same math for all of these. Then we have that review section on the bottom. Remember, when we review, this is important because our test is coming up. There should be nobody talking right now. We should be listening. When we review, it is important that we do the review and we make sure we do it correctly because this test is coming up next week, Tuesday. We want to be ready for it. Adeline. Always simplify your fractions. Yes. Thank you for that reminder. What is the magic number we need to remember when we're working with percentages, Lexi? 100. 100 for your denominator of fractions, and then 100th for the decimals. So, if you are watching this at home, I hope you are well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.